Hi everybody, welcome to the Magical Garden with Bernadette. I've been promising to do a video on dehydrating food, and the reason why it's important to do that is a lot of gardens produce a lot of food that maybe at the moment is too much, but the idea is that we're growing organic, sustainable food for you and your family to also take you through the lean seasons, meaning, the fall and the winter when you don't have that fresh stuff. And there's nothing like a homegrown tomato to eat, because there's a big difference between what you buy in the store and then what you grow yourself. I won't touch a tomato from the store, and in fact, in most restaurants, I won't eat them either. They're usually orange, and they're kind of hard because they're picked before their peak of ripeness, and then they're treated with gases to keep them, well, I guess ripe. I don't know what the right word would be, in order to have a shelf life. But your tomatoes grow naturally. These are all grown on the vine. Now, some of these tomatoes fell off during the tropical storm Isaias, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And you can see that there's still a little bit of green and yellow on these. But I wanted to show you this because you could put this in a paper bag with other tomatoes, and the gas that comes out will help ripen them, and they'll be just beautiful. You could put it on a table, put it in a bowl, on your counter. But the biggest mistake a lot of people do is put tomatoes in the refrigerator, and don't do that, because it'll really affect the flavor, and you might as well just go and buy a tomato from the supermarket then, because you're going to have that same type of flavor. So these are some that are not quite ripe, but I'm gonna keep those out, and we're going to use them. Now, what we have here is a variety of tomatoes, and you can see this is way more than I could possibly eat for both me, my husband, family, and my guinea pig, and she loves these things. By the way, really high in vitamin C. So what I do, and what we're going to do here, is to dehydrate these tomatoes, and I'm going to show you what we do after that. So if you're going to dehydrate your tomatoes, and most foods anyway, you need to take off the dried ends. Not so much this, but you have to take out the core. Now, basically, we have hundreds of tomatoes here, and I must admit that I'm going to take a slightly lazy way out, and instead of coring out each tomato, I'm just going to take off a bit here. So, well, I didn't cut off enough. There's still some green here, and I'm going to show you that. Show you how I do this. So you can see that there's a core. Now, what I'm going to be doing with anything, nothing is going to waste. Either my guinea pig will eat this, or you can also use it for compost for the following year. And with a dehydrator, you have to cut them smaller, and you can see just how beautiful these tomatoes, probably like a ½ inch along those lines. And I know every dehydrator has different recommendations here, but probably right along this end. So I'm just going to cut this up just a little bit, and then I'm going to show you what I do with the cherry tomatoes. These are quite large. By the way, these are the San Marzanos, these larger ones? Yeah, my husband is taking the video. So we're going to cut them like this, and you could just see the color, beautiful inside and out of these tomatoes. So now what I'm going to do here is we have a variety of grape tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, and sweeties. I couldn't remember that last time. So again, doing the lazy thing here. Yes, I got it all. So there's no core there, and I'm just going to cut these in half, and I'm going to do a few of these. You can see this is my compost pile, and we'll come back and I'll show you how I put them on the tray. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I've cut up a bunch of my tomatoes, but they're different sizes. So the dehydrator that I have actually has 4 or 5 different trays here, and what I'm going to do is try and match the sizes. So for this one, I am actually going to put the larger pieces and leave a little bit of air and space between each one here. What's going to happen when they dehydrate is they're actually our version of sun-dried tomatoes, because the airflow, this is heated air and it circulates between the trays, and the flavors get concentrated, oh my gosh, like 10 times, if not more. And in fact, this is the only way that my husband will eat tomatoes. He doesn't like tomatoes, but he loves sun-dried tomatoes. So this is our version. I just want to show you, I don't know if you can see that. Does that look okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna just complete a bunch, trying to match up the sizes a bit. And then we'll go on to the smaller tomatoes, which are the sweeties.
Explain to everybody what you have from previous
sun-dried
tomatoes.
Okay, that's a good idea, because we have this jar, and what I've done here in this jar, both my husband and I, the first harvest, as you can see, we have a lot of the smaller tomatoes. So those are the sweeties, the cherries, and the grape tomatoes. I'm trying to think of the different varieties. And those come out first. So the jar that we have here is filled with those smaller tomatoes, and they're absolutely wonderful. So every day we put them in our eggs. We cook them for dinner. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do. And to be honest with you, I snack on them. They're so good. So I'm gonna finish up this tray, and then we'll come back and I'll start with the smaller tomatoes. So fast forward, I cut more tomatoes. These are the larger ones, and as I mentioned, I think these are the Romas and the San Marzanos. And then here are all the smaller tomatoes. Now, obviously, I have a lot more here. You can see I have this tray here and this bowl to fill up. But what we do here is basically one tray fits on top of the other. And let me move this over. I have another 3 trays here, which will be full when I'm done here. We stack them here. And then the top of the dehydrator goes right on top here. Now, I'm going to show this to you, but there's a guide here for fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices. By the way, I really prefer with herbs to hand dry them or dry them in my home as opposed to this, because they kind of get a little flaky here. There's for jerky, meat, fish. So with the fruits and vegetables, believe it or not, tomatoes kind of considered a fruit. So I would put it on the 135 degree setting here. Then I would put this on, plug it in, and then the heat goes on and circulates through everything. You know what I mean?
Adjust it.
Oh, yeah, let me adjust that.
It should snap in. There you go.
Yeah, it does snap in. And typically, for the smaller tomatoes, where we run about 12 hours or so, right? We kind of figure that. And then with the larger tomatoes, they're going to take quite a bit more, because obviously there's a lot more.
It can take up to 24 hours.
Yeah, it could take up to 24 hours. So being that I have the 2 different sizes here, what I will do is tomorrow check on the tomatoes, and if they're dry enough, I'll take that tray out. Most likely that'll be the smaller tomatoes, and leave the larger ones in to complete the dehydration process.
Okay, and also I think you should show them what we do by giving the flavor of the basil inside of our.
So what we've done here, and I did mention this just a little before, is these are the little tomatoes that we have here. I don't know if that shows up well, and you can even see that the oil has turned the color of the tomatoes. So in the past, we've added garlic, we've added a little bit of onion, and this is fresh basil from the garden. I really did well with basil this year. So we can take a couple of sprigs. I like to just tear them up so this way the oils are released, and we put them in the jar. I can't wait for all of this to be done, and in fact I'll probably do a short video opening these up or a couple of pictures, and we'll see how everything turns out. But usually they are so delicious, really, really, really tasty. So we'll just put a few in here. And this is really good quality olive oil. I would suggest using something like this. And when we are done with that, let me get the cap on this. Turn it upside down. Let the flavor, let the flavors macerate a bit. I put this in the refrigerator. I have to take a tip from my sister Genevieve. She's a graduate from the Culinary Institute of America, and she was pushing me. She says that has to stay in the refrigerator because of botulism and other things that can happen. So it's a safety thing.
if you don't seal it.
Right. And you know what it is I'm not an expert on canning, so until I feel confident with that, I'm not going to present that until I'm ready. But this I feel safe with, and as my husband mentioned, all of the different flavors and the different things that you can do. So we store this in the refrigerator. You can add garlic, many other flavors, that you would find suitable. So hopefully you liked today's little show, and if you like this content, please hit that like button and subscribe, and there's that little bell there that you can hit, and it'll give you that notification when you've uploaded some new things. I think you can hear all the birds, so they're probably happy, or they're looking at the food here. And I would love your feedback. Maybe you have your own recipes and stuff. Keep in mind that when you do things like this, intent is everything. So whether you plant by the full moon and you harvest by the solstice, or you're getting ready for the harvest festivals that are coming up and for the seasons to come, always give thanks for your bounty. Give thanks for what the earth has given you, and we honor the earth back by by living organically as best as we can, taking care of the soil, taking care of the earth, taking care of our bodies, and taking care of one another. So give me your tips. I'd love to hear more about that, and many blessings, everybody.